finger.
It's
the
same.
So we're not gonna point fingers, alright? Alright. Iron. I think that Iron guy is actually a terrible bounce dev. All he does is, all he does is, passively trying to encourage buffs for down. I'm joking.
I have a message for Neph. Future Neph, invest in Apple.
Future Neff invest in Apple.
Now? Fuck Apple.
It's a joke, because that's useless information.
Hey.
Oh, I did not know that because I am, as the Scandinavian soy boy tells me, what was it, armpit scratching Neanderthal? I'm an armpit scratching Neanderthal.
But yeah, so
I think ultimately I'm capable of like maybe giving I think I'm capable of giving Neff grief without hating him or making him feel unwelcome when I'm around.
right.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key, I think.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I tried to do that with a lot of people, and sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. But
There's definitely an issue and like this Cold War style schism, when your Discord that was allegedly built under your name suddenly gets changed to the point where the name says this is a creator-proof space.
Yeah.
It becomes a problem.
But what's up with that old server anyway? Is it active at all?
Not really. It's
Yeah.
really
No,
dead.
I think it died.
Occasionally. No, it's active occasionally, but again, it's the same 6-5 people that keep it alive.
Most everyone I know migrated over.
Yeah.
All right. I guess that's not. I'm not trying to like pull the numbers game.
Who's
Like,
listening
more
to the
than you,
Majora's
but, like,
Mask soundtrack in the background?
Oh yeah.
Is it you?
That's me.
Okay.
Why is it loud?
But yeah,
No, it's okay.
Okay.
It's not that loud. I just called it out.
Okay.
I think the difference is though, like, you can criticize or disagree at them with Neff, but at the end of the day, you have a lot of positive reactions. But a lot of these people, the only interactions you have with them is them criticizing him and his work. So that creates a completely different dynamic.
You should let Neff in.
I think he's busy with the moblins, with the piggies.
He's like, oh, he's talking about, a stream, what happened, or whatever. Yeah, we're just chatting about this freaking State of the Union, I guess.
Yeah, the
State of the Union.
Anyway, let's make this Why Breath of the Wild Sucks podcast.
Oh, shoot.
Actually,
Again.
what was it on YouTube for a while? The State of This Channel trademark.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to I also want to point out this is probably the first stream Neff has ever watched of mine because they've all been on Twitch. And I don't think he knows how that works, but that's okay.
Oh, good sir.
But
Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to.
oh shoot, dude, that's true. But I wanted to talk about some of the like general stuff about like the community in the Discord and everything in general. I wanted to get everyone's thoughts on where, like, basically I want to compare where we were and then where we are, and then get all of your thoughts on both, like, from the three of you, starting with Deox. What are some of your thoughts on that?
I think we're in a much better place. Everything has kind of calmed down, and yeah, I guess it's kind of sad, I had to take like extreme measures to get there. I don't personally think it was extreme. I think it was, I kind of saw it coming from a long way.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I guess it was Discord servers. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, that's not particularly extreme, no matter what you do.
Yeah, exactly. But some people might disagree with that for whatever reason. But I think it's in a better place, and there are just a couple of people that are really against the move. And they are kind of the ones keeping it alive, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Yeah. Like, if everyone just kind of moved and moved on, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. It wouldn't be needed.
Right.
That's kind of my stance on things.
And where do you think, like, I'm trying to think of how to put this. Do you think people are kind of starting a lot of this because they're still salty about, like, even if the issue isn't about Neph anymore, do you think it's more so just about like they're trying to force people back into the old server or something like that?
Kind of feels like it, but I think that it was like that initially. Not so much now. I think people are kind of accepted because it's been a while now. How long has it been? Like 2 weeks or something like that?
Hey, it's been about a month, actually.
Oh, holy shit. But yeah, and everything has been, you know, there's been no degeneracy to speak of. There's been no craziness.
There's the adult channel.
Yeah, there is, but let's be, even I'm gonna admit, like, the adult channel is relatively tame, so there's no proper, yeah, so it's no degeneracy there either, but like I'm saying, there's been no like major drama, there's been like nothing to speak of. So I think people are kind of, you know, accepted that fact, and I think a lot of people had that notion that when we moved servers that it would, you know, devolve into this kind of shit posting mess, which it didn't, which kind of convinced people like, hey, maybe, you know, they were onto something. And you know, even some people that were against the move, initially they, you know, they've come out and said, you know, I actually like the new server. It's a lot more, you know, organized, structured. We have clear rules of what's okay.
Right.
So I think most people are getting used to it. And I just think there's a couple of people that have a problem with it, and they're the ones keeping it alive. And they're not really talking to us, so we don't really know what we can do to improve it.
I also want to get y'all's opinions on what you think about, like, people. So I've noticed this has been a kind of a big issue, both in old, new server, everything, but mainly lately, I've seen a lot of problems with people complaining about Neph's seclusion and, like, isolation and keeping to himself, basically. And I want to know what some of y'all's thoughts on that are, because a lot of people are getting really tired of that, and they're getting really pissed about, you know, Neph's little hidey hole and him, that he doesn't, quote-unquote, interact with this community. I want to know what you guys think about that.
Okay,
Feel free to chime in. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I will be the first to go in on that. Honestly, I get where Neph is coming from, in that his personality type is one that, from my extended experience with him, is he likes to keep to himself and be very reserved when he's working on things.
Right.
However, in the modern age of social media, especially when you're working on a project that has a fan base, however small, you have to, in order to maintain whatever fan base you have, interact with them in some way. Now, you don't have to sit down and talk with them for 20 posts about something. You could hold a random QA session once a month. You could just do little updates on the news feed that just, you know, at everyone's. You know, you can do that kind of thing.
Right.
People don't tend to see that out of Neph. There's been instances where he's openly said, "Oh, I don't really post in that one server because it just seems a little too cluttered." And again, I understand his personality. He's a very reserved man, and he likes to keep to himself. But doing little gestures of acknowledging, "Hey, thanks for supporting me. I see you here. Here's some of the work I did this week. Hope you like it." That's all you gotta do, man. That's my 2 cents.
Right. Deox or Adam? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can go quickly. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I agree. However, at the end of the day, I'll have to quote code actually on this one. Is that that would be preferable, but at the end of the day, he doesn't really owe anyone anything. So I can kind of understand if he doesn't want to do that. Like, that's his choice at the end of. But the main problem is he was active though, like a year ago.
Yeah,
like,
I know. That's what I mean. And then
yeah. The thing is, that started this entire thing is that people, you couldn't even talk about, yeah, let's say the symbolic aspect, because that's a shared interest of a couple of people in Discord. We couldn't even talk about that in the main channel without people complaining or criticizing and shit talking, and obviously a person is not going to feel welcome in a community when it's like that.
Yeah. Now on the flip side, yeah.
Yeah, and just another side of the things, like
on the flip side of that, you said something about how people feel Neff will toss a grenade in a room and run away.
Oh yeah. Obviously, there was the case where people, they would think that they couldn't even talk about Breath of the Wild because he would, come in as like, vroom vroom shit game ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Some people will think, even people that like Breath of the Wild will laugh and be like, they can acknowledge that it's funny.
Right.
But a lot of people were genuinely upset by that, to the point that they had to make a Nephi-proof channel to complain. And I don't think there's an easy solution to that. Like, I'm more on the fence, and this goes beyond like Hyrule Conquest,
right.
in general. But if you don't like something, you just avoid it.
Yeah.
And as I tried to tell them in the past, there are different channels. Neff has been very outspoken that he's bad at Discord. He doesn't like clutter, and he will probably only use the, Hyrule the dedicated generals channel. You can talk about Breath of the Wild in other games, and he probably wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But they were literally taking something that they know he is passionate about, his passionate opinions, and flinging it in his face, even though they know he might react to it. That was my entire deal with the Nephi-proof thing, is that you guys are kind of, responsible for your own, misery in a way.
As some users say, they bit the hand that feed them.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a controversial term to some people, but I think it, in a lot of the situations it does, hit the nail on the head. When you want to talk about the general like strife in the community, I want to say, and I also I want to get some of your thoughts, Adam, if you want to kind of chime in.
Okay, sure. Well, I guess it ties into before the stream started. I don't know when exactly the stream started, but we had mentioned the fact that I think it's admirable that he's just kind of doing what he wants to do with the mod, and
right.
how, oh yeah, I'm doing what I want, and then if people like it, cool. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of potential for him to, keep making kind of a living, maybe not a full living, but kind of like a part-time living on it. And if he wants that to come to fruition, I think, just little gestures that show the community, oh yeah, here's what I've been working on, or like, and an easy way to do that is just either do weekly progress type updates or whatever, or to do something. I think Code may have recommended, the weekly updates or something, but I always thought like, or like, I'm thinking even, I don't know if he just started streaming his process or something. That's something that brought the Fox and Space guy a ton of success.
You know what? That actually has some merit. Is he could actually stream real-time work.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would actually do wonders, because that would do something for people who are at work and they want something to do while they're working. They'll watch the stream and
You can put some music on. Maybe you can have someone in on like a Discord call, chatting with him while he works or whatever. And then every so often he'll peek over to the Twitch chat and answer a question that a fan has or something.
Yeah.
And then it's not like a super dedicated interaction. It's just, hey, someone asks about why I'm doing this specifically. Oh, it's because in the story she's gonna be blah, or something like, or there's a callback, or there's a reference to whatever. And then it keeps like little bits of trivia that might, like little nuggets of trivia might trickle out here and there that keep people interested. And that's something people can like watch in the background. Yeah, like I know a lot of it is, it's like such a huge time dedication to like really keep up with Hyrule Conquest, because he releases really long cutscenes, and then it's you can't just pop into the middle of it,
People want something tangible to clip onto, and in many ways the isolation makes people feel that there isn't anything worth investing in.
Mm-hmm. I think I think the biggest thing it'll help is just kind of putting not a face, but like kind of putting a person behind the name, I guess. Like they're kind of getting what Neff's all about. And I think, a lot of the controversial, like, jokey, like the opinions he has, where he gives, he'll talk about Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and stuff like that, like, when we talk to him in person, it's fine. It's like funny. He's like, he's joking around. He's not calling people freaking armpit scratching troglodytes.
Now, now on the flip side of that, I want to insert something here.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that in the greater community, there is a sense of animosity between the people who do get in a voice chat with Neff and talk to him. Is the idea that there's this like elite club. Well, honestly, I'm sure Neff would be more than happy to talk to a lot of people. But again, that comes to the hand biting thing. There's a breakdown of communication here where both sides are very, in essence, scared to interact with one another. Neff, in many ways, feels as if many people in the community were openly hostile for him for his opinions, and then in other ways, a lot of people in the community felt that Neff would just start shit to piss people off. And I don't think, I think for the most part, there's a really big miscommunication there. I don't think that either side intended to be that way, but that's how it comes off to the greater outside world.
I do think though that some people on the Discord are kind of like.
Now there are some people that just start shit.
Yeah.
I know. I think like their perception of Neff is so warped because I really tried. I really tried. I told them exactly what you said, Adam. It's like, you know, we have some public voice chats. You can all jump in and listen. You know, you don't need to talk. You know, you can just listen because you get a much better idea of who a person is by listening to them talk, right?
Right.
And
I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of the big drama we've had was happening over text, not through the voice.
Right. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, and I said this multiple times, you know, I talked to Neff for, you know, a lot over voice, you know, maybe that's why you guys, you know, have this completely warped perception, right? And they're like, yeah, I don't think that's a poor excuse, Deox, you know, you're just a sycophant or whatever. I've had that thrown in my face, just suggesting, you know, try, you know, engage with him over voice. You don't even need to talk. Vupra's kind of proved that, you know, you can still be active in voice without actually talking.
Right.
You know, and you don't like, that's fine, right? If you don't have a microphone, or, you know, the real reason you know might have social anxiety, you know, that's completely fine. But you still get a better idea of who a person is over voice than through text.
And there, you know, I'll be the first to admit that, you know, this even applies to me a lot, but there's definitely people who come across as completely different over text versus on voice, and they could be saying the exact same thing, but because you're hearing the inflections in their voice, you kind of get like when they're joking, when they're serious, whether they mean this in a douchey way, or if they're just kind of, maybe they're wording it a little weird, and then the way they're actually inflecting it is fine.
I mean, I'll be the first person to jump on that. For people that do listen to me in voice, they know that I'm a very impassioned person. I am very bombastic. I am very loud. People get intimidated by me in a lot of ways, and a lot of people think I'm scary when I'm on voice. But I've had people say, "Oh, when I sit down and talk to you in text, you're the most chill dude ever."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the same thing with, like, I think, like, just the format of having discussions over text is kind of rough because, like, it's the epitome of everyone typing at the same time, and it causes things like,
Yeah.
you know,
And
like,
that's
everyone
why I
types
like
at the same time. Everyone gets really frustrated because they're trying to get a word in before someone says something else, because
Right.
they want to make sure that the thought process is in the right order. So people are going to word things badly. People aren't going to think about what they're saying as much. It's just it just comes across as douchier than it actually is more often than not.
And I want to point out too, just using this as an example for me personally, why I prefer to do a lot of interactions over voice. The Exodarian and I are very good friends. Loopy makes jokes about it all the time, but he and I voice chat a lot because we like to have a lot of serious conversations. If I'm ever talking to him about, you know, say like the balance of Hyrule Conquest or bugs or things that need to be fixed, I'll just text him. But if he's like ever like, hey man, I want to talk about this, you know, X serious conversation, I'll give him a call. You know, like I feel like, for me personally, I cannot have a serious conversation via text, and that's why I don't engage in a lot of the serious, quote unquote, serious conversations that happen in the official Discord. I'll just say, hey, hop in voice chat, let's talk, or something like that.
Over text, I'm like absolutely like overly blunt sometimes. I will say that much.
That's an issue that comes with me. Is, you know, a lot of people have the idea that just into you really want to just talk to people in voice so you can shout them down, which is where it comes from with my, you know, the bombastic voice and that I talk loud. very impassioned. But the reason that I do voice is because, people like to talk about politics. I'm a political kind of person. When I'm talking to people on that kind of thing, like you said, Wolf, you got to get the thought process in order. And when you're talking over text, things can come out completely wrong because one person's typing faster than the other. And again, it can be one side talks and one side texts. But as long as you have one other person that can, inflect and impart emotion and, not be confused and jumbled in the mess.
Right.
It doesn't have to be both parties on voice. It can be one party on voice, one party on text. On a personal note, I find talking about serious topics over voice is, much like Wolf, is much easier.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, ideally, we'd all be chilling out in the same room with
Yeah.
some social lubricants,
Exactly. We'd be sitting there using that social loop to do weird things with our fists. Anyway.
But for me, I definitely agree. I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's really noticeable when I chat in text. I think I can decently articulate myself in text. The problem is I have ADHD, and you can kind of tell from the way I write. I constantly edit what I post because I'm not thinking. I'm dumb.
Right.
I do this in voice as well. That's why I can be really blunt and sound really angry, but I'm really not. It's because I'm hyperactive. But I feel it's even in voice though, it's much easier to, after my outburst, I can kind of explain where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah. If you're not calling people a armpit scratching troglodyte Neanderthal, then you can say, this is what I actually mean.
Yeah.
You're also ugly.
You are extremely bald.
I mean, that is the story of my life. I speak quickly, I type quickly, and I've said a lot of dumb shit that I probably shouldn't have said.
Yeah.
But in voice, it's easier because you can kind of hear from the voice of people. Like, if you hear someone have an outburst in chat, it's kind of hard to tell where they are, right? But if you hear someone have an outburst in voice chat, and then you can kind of tell how they sound after that outburst, you can get a general idea of how they are, right?
And then you could tell when someone's angry, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna step away, I'm gonna go get a root beer, I'm gonna go drink some and relax. Let's take a step back, go ahead, get something to eat, come back, relax. Okay, we good? Yes. You can tell, and you can be like, alright, let's take a break.
Alright,
Yeah.
that's the big thing with text is it's hard to discern being angry, being stubborn, or being blunt, or being stern. Like, all those things blend together in text, and it's really hard to tell what's what.
I mean, well, here's another thing, like I said, let's assume that, I'm not gonna name any names, but I've had some people who have, gotten very angry with me over text, over, important topics important to them, and I don't want to anger them, but they would come back and they would tell me, dude, I was screaming at you for like 6 or 7 posts. If you were in the voice chat with me, the moment you started getting heated, I would say, okay, let's relax, get some water, come back in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing is I think people let themselves get more heated over text because they also infer like more maliciousness than there might actually be.
Right.
And also, I think hearing the other person's voice is just a natural, it's a natural defense against getting angrier because you're hearing them as a kind of a person rather than
just a name on the internet, right? Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead.
Over text though, like just bringing this back to the Discord specifically, is that I think there's I don't remember exactly who of you said it, but there's like a miscommunication. I think that's like the red thread. That is kind of the
really
positive.
There is a big miscommunication, and like I was the one who brought it
up. And I honestly think I think this applies to myself. I'm guilty of this, and I think everyone can kind of, at least I hope everyone would be able that they've been a part of it, admit that they maybe sometimes haven't read the mood. And I'm seeing your typing, Teddy. I'm not sure if you're listening now, but one snide remark at the wrong time can be a big deal. Like, even if you in that moment don't think it's a big deal, it can really be a big deal. And I think that's what happened a lot, and that's kind of spiraled the drama to become even worse, just because you didn't have a bad intention, you were, because it's all through text, right? But you have like a funny meme, and I know you, Iron, have been worried about this a bit, because you told me in the past that you would meme when there was a serious conversation going on, but you didn't really mean it maliciously, right?
Right.
But people can that remark might make people even more angry, even though that was not your intention, because simply people are not in the mood, because maybe there's a heated atmosphere, whatever. I do think there's a proper miscommunication problem, and
yeah, I agree. I think miscommunication is a good way to put it, for sure.
And the thing is, and again, I know people, going back to what I said earlier before we started the podcast, is I know people have certain, issues with how things are done. With Neff, with anyone else on the mod team or whatever, whoever, essentially.
Right.
But if you're not really telling people about that, and you don't need it to do it publicly, you can just send them a private message. It's kind of hard to tell. Like, we don't know if there's anyone out there that have a problem with how things are done on the new Discord. We don't know, because no one is telling us anything.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to bring up. A perfect example. Again, I'm not going to name any names, but I brought up that this whole thing started from a couple of users saying that they wanted to address their grievances about the server. And I was offhandedly informed about it by Iron. And he showed me a screenshot of those users saying, hey, we needed this, that, and the other thing. And he told me that that was in a different server. And so I got hold of that person, and I said, hey, we're going to have this podcast, and we're going to record it, and we're going to deal with this issue. And then I extended an olive branch, and I said, hey, if you really do have an issue, air your grievance out in the server. Talk to us, call us out, give us an @ let us know. And then that other person, they said that, well, that's why I wanted to drop the stuff off. There's a reason I did it, but I did. There's a reason that I didn't put it out in the public. What is that reason? Please tell me, because doing the backroom stuff deliberately isn't good. It makes things look very shady, actually.
The thing is, I'm the first to say, and I can say this from personal experience, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys, have similar experiences. It's always better to let it's always better to let the person, if you have a problem with something, it's always better to tell them directly, because if the person you have a problem with find out that you've been going behind their back, complaining and shit-talking them, it's going to make it 10 times worse.
Right.
In most cases.
And
Definitely.
basically impossible to solve for the most part.
And I want to talk a lot more about that whenever you're done, Deox, because this has kind of been a big thing for me as well.
Yeah, that was just a fact.
Yeah.
That's just what I was going to say,
Okay. So a lot of my own personal issues that I've had lately has come from the shadiness, like Juggalo said, and I as a mod, someone that is really trying their best to help the community in general, like with the whole reason my YouTube channel exists and all the work I've put in to help people in the community and Neff and everything, and now trying to moderate the Discord, like it's a lot, and I'm trying to do a lot, but it really agonizes me when I see someone referring to a complaint about something within the community, and then I just never get to hear what said complaint was, because it was said behind closed doors. And as a mod, it really kind of honestly pisses me off a little bit, because I want to help these people, but until I understand the issue and what these people think I should do about it, I can't help them, there's nothing I can do. I can't help you if I don't know what the problem is. And that's been a big issue. And Wahoo, I spoke to him earlier this week in the general chat, and he was saying, someone was mentioning in another Discord they had a problem, And I was like, okay, cool. Could you send them over to, talk to me or whatever? I'd love to figure out what it is, and I can try to address it. I got nothing. So that's just one example that came to mind. But I don't know if you guys have had any experience with this before as well, but I've told people before so many times, and this is kind of why I'm getting so angry with this, because I've told people so many times, if you have a problem, please tell me. I am not your enemy. I am probably the least, I am one of the least aggressive people in the community. I personally think so. I think I am personally one of the least aggressive people in the community. And I think I'm one of the least, antagonizing, I don't really try to start anything at all. I really am just trying to help people. So I'm just really trying my best there, and it's rough, seeing a lot of the problems and whatnot that we see in the community, and I can't really do anything about it.
I think there's, I agree, and I'd like to add that there's also this idea that there are these sides, and I never understood that. I've been very clear on what I believe, what I have thought about these sides since I joined.
Yeah.
Really, I don't believe in sides. Here's the thing: if I see someone in, let's say, the political chat, they're shit talking each other. My thought process is, I want to stay neutral in this. Maybe I chime in with, trying to play devil's advocate to calm things down. But at the end of the day, in my experience, whenever I take sides, it just gives, I'm adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
No. And honestly, that is, if you want to take a stance, that's completely fine. But I'm a big pacifist when it comes to arguments in general.
Yeah.
I just don't like I just don't like arguing. I really like discussions, but when the point where the discussion becomes an argument, then I'm out. And I honestly think and I share the same sentiment as Iron. I really just want to help out. Really, if anyone has a problem with anything, you can always just message me and we can have a chat about it. That is no problem.
Right.
And you haven't even. I know there's this thing about me being the sycophant, and I only care about Neph and I only care about the project, but and yeah, I do care about the project a lot, and obviously Neph is my friend. That doesn't mean I am on his side or whatever. There's no sides here.
Yeah. That is the issue. That is the issue. Right.
And even if there is a alleged side, that side is from the idea of that we want to seal that side off. We want to stitch this up and get rid of the schism. I mean, as a perfect example, anyone in here knows I'm a relatively political person, and I'm a military brat. I try to stay very abreast of current events, and I have always been consistent in what I believe, and I always do have a political side, not a loyalty, but a belief in a certain topic, an approach to a certain topic. Now, because I'm, bombastic and relatively loud, and I swear like a sailor, I get that I scare people away, and people think, oh, you're just here to talk down to me. No, when I talk from my side, so to speak, I would like you to understand where I'm coming from, because I want to understand exactly where you're coming from as well. I don't want it to be mudflinging.
Right.
I want to say, okay, here's my standing viewpoint on an issue. Here's yours. Where is our compromise? Or if there is not a compromise, what would, scientifically work the best? I don't want to just start bullshit with people. I do genuinely want to come to solutions.
Right.
And obviously I think everyone is, there are some people I don't really blame at all. I honestly think they're guiltless in all the bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't need to say any names. You know who you are, that are blameless, essentially. But besides that, I think everyone has contributed a bit to the drama.
Yeah.
And I think everyone knows who you are, right? I don't need to pinpoint. I think it's better that and that's kind of what the entire intention was with the new servers, is just have a fresh start. Okay, let's get all the bullshit out. you know, let's get the goddamn skeletons, you know, out of the closet and just move on. You know, and that's why, you know, I kind of like Iron's idea of having this podcast, because I know a lot of people have been, you know, walking around wondering like, what the hell is going on? You know, even people that necessarily haven't even, you know, participated in drama at all. I know some of you are confused, which is why I think it was a good idea to just, you know, get some perspective.
Yeah.
What's going on? And
this kind of leads me into the next thing I want to say is, how do you guys feel I want to say, leadership isn't the word I'm thinking of. How do you guys feel like the way that the structure and the management of the community as a whole is right now? The way we have it kind of set up, not exactly the Discord, but just the way that essentially the state of the community and how it works and flows at the moment.
Okay. I mean, okay, yeah. Now hold on, Spirit just typed something.
Oh yeah, man.
It serves as a good bridge. Yes, absolutely. Actually, Spirit, if you want to type how you feel about the structure of the community, go ahead and we'll respond. But,
yeah.
I'll jump in first.
Go ahead, man.
So, as far as my opinion of the structure of the community,
right?
I'm again, maybe this is just the military brat part of me speaking, but I like to believe myself relatively organized. Believe it or not, I was actually very opposed to another server when Looper just suddenly brought it in on people.
Right.
And primarily because I knew this was going to lead to further balkanization, which it did. And I said, okay, there's nothing I can do with it. It's done. It wasn't my decision. But let's look at the silver lining. This is a chance to start fresh, so we're going to organize it. As right. Deox, you put it, you had one instance where your girlfriend tried to join the Discord and left within 2 days because the channel organization was all over the place. You would have a conversation with somebody about, you know, the game, and then 5 minutes later, 2 people would come in and start shit posting and putting fucking meme images up in the same channel.
Yeah.
And a lot of people felt that there were very redundant channels, like how there was a generalized, you know, shit posting room, and then there was a that claimed it was for politics and shit posting, but it wasn't clearly named. It was just called the Rupee Land.
Yeah.
And people would still bring politics into the general constantly.
Yeah.
Because that naming convention wasn't there. Now our political thing is called Poll's Voice, based on, you know, 4chan, but you know, a little clever play on words. But when I started building the channels in this server, I came to the idea that everything should have a purpose, and it should have clear defined rules either in the header or in the pins. The political channel, for example, the first thing I wrote in there was a set of rules which I pinned.
Right.
The not safe for work channel, the adult channel, I have a very specific set of rules in the banner. Nothing illegal. There you go.
Right. Adam and Deox, I'm curious about what you guys think about like the structure and stuff like that.
I think it's fine. I want to point something out. I said this before the podcast started. And I told the, you know, people here, but I haven't told, you know, live, is that I, you know, back last year when we were all on the old Discord, whenever people would leave or go inactive, I actually would message them, and I would ask, you know, if you don't mind me asking, you know, can you give me a few reasons? And that did, you know, there was a trend, and I would, people would say, you know, it's very messy, it's very hard to, you know, keep track of everything. Some people would mention that there were too many inside memes that would get spammed, and they would feel really alienated if they were new because they didn't really understand what's going on.
Right.
There was a subculture of Neph-centric memes that new people just didn't get.
Yeah, and not even just Neph-centric, but just community-centric in general. And I'm not saying those are necessarily bad, you know, they're fun and all, but it was getting to the point where you would have, you know, a lot of spam about those things, and people wouldn't understand what it is. For me, the chat thing, I think it was fine for the most part. For me, there was mostly the channel names, and I'm saying I'm guilty of this myself, again, which is why I was, I've been a big advocate on the news server. Like, let's keep it straight so that new people that join, they know where things are discussed. Let's have clear descriptions of everything, because that was a big problem for a lot of the lurkers in the old Discord, because they were not. They had no clue where to post or anything. And I did try. Yeah, and I did try to change it multiple times, and I gave up. And as much as you guys might not think that I have that, as a, I still think community perception is important. And when new people join the Discord and all they see is a bunch of channels that make no sense to them. Like for us, we all know what the Rupee land is, but a new person, even if they played the goddamn Rupee land, they don't know what it entails. They don't have that association with it. And that's just an example of how that can, potentially hurt the community and the perception, outsiders looking in have of it. So I actually think the new Discord is fine, and you can make the argument that, yeah, we could have just restructured the old one or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I think it had so much baggage that, no one wanted to let anything go. No one wanted to delete any channels. No one wanted to, we wanted to archive everything, essentially, because like some people pointed out, the Discord has history. And I agree with that. But sometimes it's easier to scrap the old and bring in the new. And it's more efficient that way. And from, we've had the Discord for almost a month now, the new one, and I think it's been relatively good. Yeah, it was a shitstorm in the beginning, but I knew that would happen because there are some people that really enjoy, fanning the flame, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that, once the initial hype dies down, it gets boring and things revert back to normal, and that's, what happened.
Kind of like with every Zelda game.
Yeah, kind of like with every Zelda game. But like, we'll have to see how it goes in the future, but with the new server. But I think so far it's been good. I don't really have anything complaints. Again, if there are any complaints, you need to voice them, because we aren't, we are not psychic. So it's very hard for us to understand like with what you guys would want to change if you don't tell us. And we don't bite, it's just private message anyone that has the power to change anything, and we'll, have a talk about it. It's not...
Absolutely. And
so, yeah, I guess that's...
Speaking of speaking up and kind of like bringing things up to the mods and whatnot, this kind of leads on to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which might be a touchy subject for some people, but that's kind of... let me think. So, quote-unquote relevancy. And what I mean by that is, I've seen a couple complaints from a couple people that they're worried that their questions and insight on Hyrule Conquest, and this kind of leads back to what we were saying earlier about Neph, what people say about Neph, about how he's not as interactive with the community. But I feel like I've heard that some people kind of feel like what they say doesn't matter, whether they're giving an opinion or some insight or anything regarding the mod. And some people, they want to be helpful and just chime in about stuff, and kind of this rift between people that opinions matter and the ones that don't. I kind of want to get y'all's thoughts on that. It's kind of a touchy subject for some people, but it's something I do really want to highlight, because for me personally, I think everyone in the community, has something worthy to bring forward, regarding the mod. They have some, they can, everyone can say worthy things, That's kind of what I think. I would kind of want to get some of y'all's thoughts, if you don't mind.
My big piece of feedback is I like Iron's old mic better.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's definitely my first piece of feedback. My second piece of feedback would be that I actually genuinely do believe that there is a potential regular community members to make an impact on the game. And from personal experience, I want to address another Discord I am part of. I am part of the Project Brutality development team, which is basically an extension mod for Brutal Doom, which pretty much everyone knows at this point. But I am responsible for essentially writing up a PDA style lore book for the mod. Little bestiary and armory, explaining little blurbs, explaining weapons and monsters and stuff like that. And I gave people in that Discord free public reign to edit and modify that. Now, that's because I'm of the belief that you don't get good ideas by saying no. And I'll be 110% honest. There are entries that people have made in that document that blow mine out of the water, and I've permanently incorporated those entries. I do genuinely believe that even though the artistic integrity of the creator is extremely important, I believe it would behoove a creator to always consider potential ideas from the community.
Yeah. I guess.
So yeah, I guess one clarification is this doesn't mean take every idea the community
No,
has.
I'm just saying.
So I think the big thing to take from it is be wary of what people are wanting and how you can quell, I guess, any concerns. I guess that's the big lesson to take from that. And a lot of it is like, when we say, I guess when you say like good ideas don't come from saying no. I actually do believe that. Again, that doesn't mean don't say no to any idea.
That doesn't mean that every idea is good, mind you.
Yeah. So, like, I guess how I would expand on it. Yeah, how I would expand on it is, someone gives you an idea and you're unsure about it. Give them a okay, then what, instead of a no.
Right.
Or ask them to like, could you elaborate what's precisely you mean? And then rather than say, no, I don't want to do that, you can go like, not necessarily point by point, but just kind of, you see, my intention with doing that was that I wanted this to happen eventually, so that wouldn't work quite as well. You can give, like, rather than like blanket, we can't do that statements. That might be frustrating for people, but I think. I think accepting every idea is kind of like every idea is a bad idea.
Right, of course.
I think like it's basically just keeping your ear, like kind of keeping your head to the ground, like keeping your ear to the ground for what people are, just getting the vibe of the community, I guess.
Yeah, and
is what we need to be wary of.
Go ahead, Deox.
Yeah, I have a comment to add to that. Is that I agree, and I think good. I absolutely agree that good opinion, suggestions, can come from anywhere. I don't think that. I think that goes without saying. However, when you have the fear that your opinion or your suggestions, aren't seriously considered, or you feel they don't matter. While I understand it's frustrating to get a no, I do think there's a way you can mitigate that for yourself. For example, on the gameplay side of things, if you haven't really played the game or you don't have an understanding of RTSs in general, then if you're given a suggestion but it has no bearing on whatever the vision of the game is, obviously people are not going to take that seriously.
Yeah.
And you can mitigate that with yourself by firstly playing the game, or if you don't want to play the game yet, at least get familiar with the genre of the games and get good ideas based on that. And that applies for the story as well. If you want to make suggestions to the story, you really need to understand the story and the vision behind it.
I'm gonna give a perfect example for myself, actually. So I lurked in the community for a long ass time, but I started getting a little more involved in the old Discord. I want to say like a year ago. I was playing the game a bunch, but I never really talked to many people. I wasn't really friends with many people. But I was posting in the multiplayer chat a couple times, asking if people wanted to play and whatnot. And I played a couple games with a couple people, and it was good. But I really discovered not too long after playing Hyrule Conquest that the old version of the Deku trees were really, really, really broken. For those of you that don't know, they were really, really broken. So I actually, for I want to say about a month or two, kept complaining about the Deku trees are broken, the Kokiri are broken, Saria is broken, the whole faction is an abomination from hell, it's a war crime, it's a broken faction. And it just fell on deaf ears for a long time. So I wanted my opinion to be heard. So I made a video talking about how broken the faction is, and I demonstrated how strong it was, and then I posted it, and it has like over 600 views now, and people have seen that, and now here I am. So kind of, I would say, like, if you understand what it is that you're talking about, your opinion will be heard, you know? Because
you can't just go in being, you know, just like, I want this because this. You have to come in with
right.
reasoned, logical statements. You said that the Kokiri and the Deku trees were broken. Back in the early days of Total War, I was one of the few people that pointed out that Labrina was fucking broken beyond all comprehension.
Right.
And I back in the day, for some of the people that aren't weren't around, Labrina used to have what were called fucking they were part of the they were part of the vanilla game, but they were called gunner posts, where it was like it was supposed to be an anti-cavalry unit. It was an anti-charge unit, but they had like 30 gunners behind a post, and they were practically fucking invincible. Another perfect example was the mechs early on, the mechanized power armor guys. I made a video showing how broken they were against the Dark Nut Legion. I set up an entire full stack of the mech guys against a full stack of deities, the most powerful Dark Nuts in the entire game. Curb stomped the deities into the dirt. Curb stomped them into the fucking dirt. I only lost half of my men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and lo and behold, he removed one.
I hope these are good examples. It's just I don't know, they kind of seem like a good example in my opinion. But basically what I'm trying to say is, in my opinion, if you're gonna suggest an idea that you really truly honestly think needs to be implemented, or you want it implemented and like all that stuff, I in my opinion, I think you should just, you know, show something for it. You know, I'm not trying to be rude by saying that. I'm just saying, like, if you just suggest something just out of the blue, random in Discord, and you get shot down, don't be upset about it if you didn't, like, I'm trying to think of how to word this without coming across as a dick.
Okay. Can I try to word it for you if you don't
go
mind?
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If you're going to present something, if you're going to suggest something, you must have more substance than simply, hey, I think this.
Yeah.
Take screenshots, make a video, write a small little 2-page essay of why something should be changed, and give logical reasons for why. Do not operate purely on emotion, no matter how much it bothers you at that time.
Yeah.
Like I said, drink some water, relax 2 minutes, organize your thoughts. I actually appreciate some of the users who said they were drafting up an entire little, you know, a little essay about their grievances with the server.
Right.
They were coming in from an organized perspective, and they were going to clearly list out, these are the troubles I have, and this is why. And I appreciate them for that, instead of just going and posting a 5,000 word wall of text, you know?
Right.
I don't know if you or Adam have anything to say. Deox, go ahead.
I have another, like, I guess I'm a bit harsher than this, because I have to say that you kind of have to get, like, if you want to contribute to anything, be it, you know, career, a creative project, whatever, and you think you have a lot of good ideas, you need to get used to be turned down.
Right.
That's life. A good example of this, we had a project at my faculty that I really wanted to participate in. I had to write 5 different papers to get included. And every time they just this is bad because of this and this and this, over and over again. That is just a facet of life. I know it sucks, and I agree with what everyone said. If you truly believe something, you need to put work into it and make an effort to convince the person you want to show a concept that you have, that why it's a good concept.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, especially if it's something creative, it might get turned down. And that shouldn't discourage you, because if you have one good idea, you should be able to get another good idea, right? That's just how it is. But at the end of the day, I'll have to take the position to say that getting turned down is something you have to get used to. It's normal.
Right.
It happens all the time, and it sucks. I completely feel with you guys. If you ever propose like a huge write-up of something and you just get a no or whatever, I understand it sucks, but it's kind of how it is. It's take it for example, like I can give a creative example. Like we have this I wouldn't say a magazine. It's like more of a it's basically a collection of contributions from the faculty at my university, right? And there's no like rigid rules what might be included. It's published monthly. It could be an article, a paper, it can even be a poem, right?
Yeah.
And I actually really love poems, and I love writing poems. I write them all the time, and I really wanted to be included in that in edition about where they had a specific theme. I think their theme was like dreams, right? In a historical context, I had to write something that has some historical connotation, but it had to fit the theme, right?
Right.
So I get to work and I write on this, goddamn poem. I pour my heart into it, and then I hand it out. I send it into the editor, and I get called into a meeting, and they basically. They say, yeah, it's good, but it's not what I'm looking for. That's not what we're looking for. We don't feel like this, fits in this edition. So even then, there's not necessarily anything wrong with my poem. It's just, it doesn't fit whatever, plan or vision they had for that edition or that theme. And that can happen. And it will happen. And what you should do with that is, okay, I guess I have to get a better understanding of whatever they're looking for, and
Right.
try again. And you try again and again and again until you get it. And I think that goes for suggestions as well. Like you have to accept that you will get turned down, and sometimes you will get turned down and you will feel like I didn't get any well-explained reason of why they turned me down.
And
But
sorry, go ahead.
it's not that simple. It's not that simple, especially when there's something creative. You can't always give like a logical criticism or essay and be like, you did this and this wrong, A, B, C, you should change this and this. That it's not always that simple. Sometimes it's a bit more abstract, like I didn't really get the feeling we're looking for, right? You've probably heard this phrase sometime, in the past. I'm rambling a bit. I'm sorry, guys. I've been working all day, so but where I'm getting at,
Absolutely.
There you go.
what I'm getting at is that getting turned down is
It's a natural part of life.
It's a natural part of life. I'm sorry for rambling a bit. I'm getting a bit
No,
tired.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I just
Can
well, I wanted to give Adam a chance to talk if he wanted to say
Yeah.
anything about
Okay.
this or not.
I guess I appreciate that whole that anecdote, Deox, because I was actually gonna say something similar. Some people might know this, but I actually went to school for film, and the whole creative process behind script writing and script doctoring and script editing and whatnot is just. I would always joke with everyone that it's just a constant stream of rejection. Because the editor rejects certain takes the director might like. And before then, the director would reject certain scenes that the scriptwriter put in. And even before then, the scriptwriter would have entire scripts being rejected. Actors would be cut from films and whatnot just because it didn't flow, like their scene just happened to not flow. things like that. Like, none of this is bad. It's just, you know, the director or someone along the assembly line decided this needed to go or this wasn't right. But a lot of that came from, you know, it wasn't just arbitrary decisions people made, and no one really, like, for the most part, no one would take it personally.
I believe people wrongly attribute, if I can jump in real quick, I believe people wrongly attribute personally targeted malice to these types of actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they definitely do. And then, you know, there were definitely people that were a bit saltier about certain things, or like were upset that they were cut from a movie, or upset that a movie they were in, that they woke up, I don't know, they woke up at 5 a.m. to get the set on time for like a week straight. They were upset that the entire movie was scrapped sometimes. And like, yeah, I get it. That's like a lot of work and a lot of thought that you put in while you were on set, and it's just kind of gone now. And, but, you know, the big thing is the way we would decide how things get accepted or how things would be chosen to be continued, or how we would choose what to cut and what to remix, what to add or whatnot, was, you know, generally I was post-production, so I was often editing or doing visual effects or doing audio. So I was at the very end of the process, and they call it the final time the film is rewritten. So what ends up happening is you get, you know, the director and any other kind of creative heads of the movie together, and then see if you can come up with some sort of cohesive creative goal for whatever project you're currently working on. And that's kind of, I guess that's like the due diligence that people might need to keep in mind, that they might need going and giving suggestions for things, is to know exactly what is needed of this project. You don't want to go in and say the entire thing doesn't work, let's just get rid of the entire project and substitute it for my fan fiction. That's not particularly constructive, and it's definitely not going to play particularly well. But
Right.
You know, if you have an idea, like, you know, how an idea starts, and like that whole process is, you know, someone would have a concern like, hey, what does everyone think of this or that, or like this thing? It's like, oh, I haven't really thought. And then he's like, oh yeah, well, here's what I think of that, like, particular issue, or this particular, well, if it's film, particular scene, or this line that someone says, or the way that the sequence plays out, or this take, or whatever. Eventually, that's kind of that idea is shopped around until it becomes kind of a mature idea, and then it's ready for prime time. And that at that point, you go to the director and say, "Hey, we were thinking," or "Hey, I've asked a few people about this, and they kind of see the same, or they kind of see it my way a little bit. What do you think of doing this instead of that?" Or, you know, me saying this and that, and not being specific. I hope that's not being too confusing. But yeah, if someone has an idea, I think that's ultimately, I think any idea has at least potential to be valuable. Maybe it's, you know, I don't think there's a bad idea. I think maybe there's an immature idea, an idea that has been developed fully.
Yeah.
And like hasn't like it's not like there are ideas or ideas that aren't ready for prime time, basically. And that was my philosophy when going in, like, since I've mostly edited, I would say, like, yeah, none of these seem bad. I just think maybe the work done on them wasn't quite right, or this I don't know, we don't have the right amount of coverage, we don't have the right angles needed for this kind of pacing to work, or whatever. And
Right.
yeah, and again, like, that's not slighting, like, oh, the cinematographer obviously didn't do his frickin' job because he didn't, like, the lighting's weird in this shot. Like, no, it wasn't. Like, there's a million things that person in particular has to worry about, and like, oh, one little mistake that kind of makes a scene unusable.
Yeah.
It's not like that's not calling them a piece of shit or anything. That's not saying, oh yeah, you obviously don't know what you're doing. I don't think people are going to give you shit for having again, like, there's a difference between a half-baked idea and a bad idea, and I really don't think there are that many bad ideas. They're just ideas that aren't complete. So I think that's the philosophy you'd have to go into it. If you have a concern or anything, then just, again, like, talk to some people about it, see where it goes, and then maybe someone will have an answer for you about a certain concern you have, and then you won't have to worry about it. But yeah, ultimately, that's kind of the perspective I would bring.
Yeah, I agree. You explained it a lot better than I could.
I think we kind of said similar stuff anyway, but
Yeah, another thing I'd like to add to that, regarding bad ideas, it's all about the context. Just because an idea doesn't work for that particular thing doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It's just that it doesn't fit, in that particular project, right? Maybe, like, yeah, since we're talking about movies, obviously I'm no movie maker, right? But, a good example, like, let's say you write a specific scene, but you're writing a romance, right? That scene really doesn't work in that particular vision that the director might have, but the scene that you wrote might work in a let's say horror movie, right? Just to get a silly example, that doesn't mean the scene, like the concept, is bad. It just means it doesn't particularly fit the context.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I can give you specific examples actually, where student films are infamous for having like a bunch of mishmashes of ideas that don't fully go together, or they're just not completed ideas, or they're just ripping off something else, or they're a romance. Because that's like, oh, I only know heartbreak. You're like, oh, fuck off. Like, but like, there's one scene in this movie I edited where it's about this kid who finds a VR headset to escape his life, and he doesn't have a very good life, so he's like, I'm gonna find escape. And the message is just like, oh, you should appreciate. It's a bit cheesy, but it was a fun movie.
Yeah.
But like one thing that was like a really kind of big sore point initially was the entire movie there isn't a single swear word until one scene when the dad comes in and just drops F-bomb after F-bomb. And we're thinking, this is a really good scene, but this is really strange. This went from like hardcore, like straight PG rating to like R in like 5 seconds. It's so strange, but again, that's not a slight on that scene or the actor or the script or anything. It's that second set of eyes saying, I don't think this really works right here.
Yeah.
And again, like maybe it's it's an issue of when people point out like inconsistencies in movie logic. People always say, "Oh, well, how did no one see this? How did no one see that?" Like, yeah, it's because they're so blind to like the flaws of their own work. They've been exposed to it so much; it's impossible for them to see it sometimes. So they don't notice how weird it plays because they're so familiar with it. It's the same thing like when you edit something. When you edit something, you get everyone together and they do what they call a spotting session to basically everyone watch through the entire thing and give notes. Yeah. Because everyone's going to have different notes on the thing. That's why I think it's important. If you have some sort of idea, shop it around, give it to people, tell people about it. I think we have a community of people interested in talking about, issues you might have with the game or whatever, and are willing to like, oh yeah, I think the reason why Neff did that is because of this, but maybe you could improve it by doing that or whatever. It's no one's gonna be offended if you think there's a couple solitary issues with the game that you think you might have a fun solution to.
Yeah. And so kind of what I want to move on to, building off of this though, of the opinions being relevant and whatnot, and suggestions. This might get a little touchy for some people, but I do want to kind of ask y'all's thoughts on so I've seen a couple people that have also been mad about opinions going unheard, be mad that those opinions aren't being heard, and the ones that are being heard are of the I guess like the people that are quote unquote relevant, like the people that
active people, or what people deem as like a
not even more active people, but people, like, I've seen people be worried that the only opinions that matter to Neff and just, the mod in general are essentially people like us,
Which is why people are skeptical of his own little private thing.
Right. And even of this podcast, like, it wouldn't surprise me if people were skeptical of this podcast, because they're like, oh, these are just the people that we're worried about anyway,
Poor, yeah.
Yeah, they're biased.
Anyway, what the hell?
Yeah,
can we clear the air on something real quick? I think people might think this Discord is the board of directors of Hyrule Conquest.
Yeah.
Truth be told, we're just kind of chatting.
Yeah, we're
not really.
This
is just Neff's. Like, if you're telling Neff he can't have a Discord for his like closer group of friends, basically.
Because
because he's a public figure to some degree, he can have like a private Discord. And like, again, we're not like constantly, you know, people will talk about Hyrule Conquest stuff. People like every so often ask me about music, or ask Neff about mechanics, or ask Exo about balancing and stuff. Like, you know, that's just like internal stuff. But and, you know, people can do that on the public one too. We're not like really hiding anything. We're saying, oh yeah, we're just kind of mostly talking. I rarely talk about Hyrule Conquest in here.
And just for good measure to add on to that, we are also not people who are actually the ones making huge changes to the game. Like you know, Adam said, there's this misconception that we're like a board of directors. I've just been in this community since 2012. I've been talking to Neff on and off almost daily. The only reason he gave me a character is because I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I was able to give him some finances for a year. And in fact, that thing with the character thing was already taken over by someone else. It was a one slot patron thing, but he was like, hey, I'll give you a character too with all the stuff you've been able to give me. And I was just like, thank you very much, I appreciate that. In fact, the thing, to be completely honest, I just kind of naturally fell off the game, to be real. I haven't really played the damn thing in years. But I'm still around the community because I do like to see the thing's progress. But it's not like I'm a big mover and shaker.
Right. Yeah.
I wanna add something that I forgot to mention, but I mentioned before we went live, regarding the thing with ideas and suggestions.
Sure.
It's awesome if you have you think you have a good idea, and you want to contribute, and this goes for everyone, absolutely everyone. But one thing to understand: at the end of the day, it's Neff's project, it's his game, and he kind of has the final say on anything. Like, if he doesn't like it, he will do whatever he wants, and that you need to respect that. That's how this entire thing is run, how it's always been run, and that's kind of, you know, that's a fundamental thing people you just need to accept.
Right.
And you know, you can call me a sycophant if you want for saying that, but I inherently believe that's just how it is. And you know, his game is not a collective effort.
Right.
It's his game. It's not a collective effort.
And to jump on that, I brought up how I'm part of the lore book thing for a Doom mod. Even though I give people unfettered access to write whatever they want, I still keep everything safe and secure. I keep backups of my own in case someone gets angry and wants to bomb it, or, you know, I let people do their own entries in their own time. And while I do have... while I have let some people's entries come in, there are some entries that I've cleaned up a little bit, or I've axed entirely. I've made it clear, you are free to contribute anything you want, and I will try to incorporate things that flow well, but I do have final say over the quality of these entries.
Yeah, and
yeah.
like in the when it comes to Hyrule Conquest, and you know, Neff has said this numerous times, he doesn't have the time to read every idea. That's just how it goes. I'm sorry to say, but you know, that's kind of how it will be.
Right.
Some people will post pages of stuff, and he doesn't have the time. I tried to, you know, read if there's something really interesting. I got the impression that, you know, they have a say or whatever. I always try to read everything and give him like a short relay of it. But at the end of the day, you know, that's not a perfect idea.
Something that I would do.
But just to finish up, you know, I've said this before, and I feel like I need to repeat it again. Again, Hyrule Conquest is not a collective effort. It's, at the end of the day, it's Neff's own vision and his own project and his own game. If he chooses to include an idea because he likes it, then that is his call, and it always has been. And I think I need to, and that doesn't mean it's anything personal at all. It's just he has his own way of doing things, what he wants to do with it, and that's completely fine. You know, imagine yourself in your shoes. not everyone is like this, you know. Some people are like, they love having a collective effort, but in this case, imagine if you have a very personal project you care a lot about, you put a lot of effort in, and you know, you're probably open to have a few ideas here and there, but at the end of the day, it's your creative outlet. You want to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, that will strengthen a project, and sometimes, you know, some will argue that is a weakness of the project. It doesn't matter. It's art. So
Right.
whatever the creator deems,
and it's art.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, but whatever the creator deems, you know, the art to be art, then that's it, and
Yeah.
that's the end of it. But I think the important thing to take away from that again is don't take it personal.
Yeah.
One final thing I did want to add on top of that is you mentioned a lot. You know, Neff doesn't have time to go through everything. If you want to maximize your opportunity to your chances of getting your stuff recognized, what I would do is I would have an interpersonal relationship with Neff. Talk to him randomly one time, ask how his day is, see how he's doing, and just listen to him talk once in a little while, and then say, hey, I have this idea, and then break that idea up into manageable, bite-sized pieces, and over the course of about a month, put those pieces out for him to look at.
I'm gonna be honest. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think a lot of the time when people ask Neff questions in Discord, he answers them. Like he doesn't really let anything, at least in the Hyrule discussion chat, which is mostly where he roams. He pretty much interacts with people that ask him questions. Like he posts his pictures in there and answers questions, and I'm this kind of backtracks to the interaction thing. It just was a random thing that came to mind. I'll get back on topic in a sec, but I just want to say that just came to my mind that, you know, he does interact with people. If you ask him a question, he'll answer you. If you comment on one of his, you know, the things he posts, one of his models, he'll answer you. He'll tell you about it. He'll talk to you about it. Like, basically what I'm trying to say is, don't expect the guy to go out of his way for someone he probably doesn't know. Get to know him, and then I'm sure he would love to talk to you.
Yeah, just a quick comment to that before we get back, because I reminded, like, if you compare this, like, community to other, like, similar communities, he's really active. I don't know how many, like, fan communities, like, games and projects you guys are in, but the developers are usually very rarely ever talk to their community. Maybe a comment here and there.
Operation Black Mesa.
Yeah, or let me put another perfect example. There's a user on here. There's a user on our Discord called Romero's Bitch, and he is a big fan of another project for Halo Custom Edition called SPV3, and he is extremely open about this. But Masters, the guy who runs that SPV3 project, he is aggressive, abrasive, very demeaning to what fan base he does have. He does not take any form of criticism. He doesn't take any form of ideas. Neff is actually very open and understanding and communicative compared to him. There are people that are just like, I run this bitch, fuck you.
Yeah.
And Neff has never been like that.
Yeah. So I kind of did want to go back, because that was just a random thing that came to my mind. I did want to go back to the whole, like, quote-unquote Hyrule Conquest board of directors, right? You know, the inner circle, I guess you could call it. The people that are considered to be, you know, Neff's, like, the people close to Neff and that he gets all his input from, you know.
The edgy fur fag.
Yeah.
The merry band of edgy fur fags.
Yeah.
The only reason that, like, Neff even bothers to listen to me is I've been talking with the guy on and off for 7 fucking years.
Right. And I literally don't know what else to tell people other than the guy has friends. Like, he has friends and he likes talking to his friends. I don't know what to say. I mean,
alright, I think we've exhausted everything in this department, so I am going to personally shift gears.
Sure, go for it, man.
To another thing that I think a lot of people need to talk about.
What's that?
And I brought this up before we went live, but the issue of, and it's not just our Discord, it's Discords all over the place, is this hostile sense of militarism between Discords whenever there is a schism.
Okay.
So, perfect example. I had I believe Deox brought this up, but at one point he was talking in another affiliated Discord.
Right.
And he like randomly just suggested something or talked about something. And someone unironically accused him of, like, quote unquote, being a spy or something like that. Another instance.
Oh, that was me. That was not Deox, but
Okay,
yeah, go
well,
ahead.
Okay, no, it was Iron's experience.
Yeah.
Another example is in the admin room we saw in the old server. Someone took a screenshot of another person who joined the old Discord server because they had found the Discord link through the Hyrule Conquest wiki. And I believe somebody suggested that that individual person who joined was an alternate account. There's some kind of a plant. There's this overwhelming mentality that Discord servers are like nation states and we're at war. Why? We all like the same damn thing. I mean, perfect fucking example outside of here. Back to the Project Brutality Discord. The Project Brutality Discord and the Brutal Doom Discord, for some fucking reason, hate each other. They do not communicate. They actively try to sabotage each other, and I avoid it at all costs. Zandronum, which is a source port for Doom that is extremely adept at doing online matches. The people at Zandronum have such a bad opinion, such a lowly opinion of us because of their interactions with the Brutal Doom people, and the Brutal Doom people constantly shit on us, that they refuse to help us program Project Brutality in a way that it can work on Zandronum. In other words, because of this animosity and this warfare-like mentality, we're never going to be able to get the thing working optimally online. You won't be able to have 8-player co-op matches. You won't be able to have 16-player death matches. All because of some kind of fucking family feud bullshit.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we all just like Doom. Why are we not coming together?
This kind of circles back to what we were talking about from the very beginning about the old versus new server, and I kind of like what you're saying, Juggalo. Deox and Stig, do you guys have anything to say, or like anything to add?
I think I've been pretty clear for a long time that I'm relatively passive. And I've tried to mitigate a lot of damage. Unfortunately, that has given the impression to people for some reason that I'm like a brown noser or whatever. Here's the thing. I agree with Juggalo, and for me, I just want everyone to play the fucking game and be happy, right? And
Right.
And again, I care about community perception. And you you can say whatever you want about Hyrule Conquest, and back when we were all, they were all the Breath of the Wild rants. But you're not helping community perception by having hostility on the server.
Right.
Especially against the creator. And that's the stance I've taken. And I can't really stop you from having, you're free to feel and, have whatever opinion you might have. But if you care about the project and you want it to be a success and you want it to thrive, a lot of those things hurt it more. Than you'd think.
Right.
I guess that's my, and tying in with what Juggalo said is like you guys love all the same thing, and yet you're sabotaging each other for some petty squabble. I think that is extremely self-destructive, and I don't really understand it myself. You know, and there are a ton of things that I disagree with, but sometimes I choose not to bring it up because what am I gonna get out of it? And yeah, I know, you know, some of you guys have thought that I'm a bit of a tool because of having that stance. And you know, I'll be a happy tool then, because at least I'm not contributing in, you know, ruining the perception of the community. Because if trying to get along with everybody and, you know, not have, and you know, have or at least mitigate all this, you know, hostilities on the Discord, if that makes me a tool, then okay, call me a tool then. I guess that's my opinion on that.
Okay. If no one has anything else to say regarding that, I can move us on to the next topic in this.
All right. I mean, Adam, you got anything?
Well, I mean, with the whole, I don't know, the rivalry.
The militant warfare schism shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's all kind of outside of my realm of understanding in general. Just because, you know, I was only ever a part of 2 at a time, for the most part. Like, I would say, like, oh, whatever the main one is, I'll pop in, and then I'm in Neff's boy hole, whatever he wants to call it. I'm sorry, don't call it that, Neff. I'm sorry, that was really gross.
Yikes.
But no,
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, but I was never really part of any of the others, and that I know each of them have a really specific, like, a lot of them have really specific points, and other ones I'm not quite sure why they're there. No, that's not me like shitting on them. That's me saying I'm not, you know, it's either I know there's probably nothing there for me, or it's unclear what they're supposed to be for, I guess. And I know, like, yeah, I mean, it's something that I was mostly uninvolved with, I think, and I guess you know what? I guess I'm happier for it.
Yeah.
God damn.
I think at the end of the day, Adam is the one that came the best out of it, because by, you know, but I feel honestly, because I've joined every Discord, I've generally tried, guys, to be friends with everybody. Even though we might not agree on anything, I have nothing against anyone personally. You know, I might get annoyed and angry, but I've just tried to get along with everybody. But honestly, it's kind of bit me in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been times I've been trying to, like, get along with, like, yeah, there have been times I've been trying to get along with the disparate groups that kind of cropped up in whatever server every so often, and I don't know, maybe I don't want to say I don't have the time, because then it implies that, oh, if you are, you're like, you just have no life. But it's more so like, I guess I don't have the fortitude to really, or I don't know, maybe I don't have the passion, whatever word works best.
Yeah, you don't. It's not important to you.
Yeah, like, I think Hyrule Conquest is, you know, I'm a part of the project, but at the same time, it's just a fun thing I'm doing. I'm not the guy.
Right, and I think that's all of us here.
away.
Besides Neff,
yeah, I'm not the guy slaving away, like getting the story together and rendering a bunch of animatics and testing the game and 3D modeling all this stuff. You know, I'm like, so often. When inspiration strikes, I make a bit of music, and that's it.
That's good. I think we've kind of all given our thoughts on that. I'm probably gonna wrap up here after not too long, but I do want to get any last minute thoughts from you guys before I say anything else.
Should we just start making fun of Neff to counteract everything we've said?
Yeah, we just make fun of Neff. I mean, called us at the server a boy hole.
Oh my gosh.
How much fucking worse do you need to get?
There's a bunch of boys in it. I mean...
boys, speak for yourself. I'm a grown-ass man. I may be a neckbeard, but I'm a grown-ass man.
No, you're not a BOY. You're a BOI boy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I just want to, before we devolve into the fun season, again, I'm really freaking tired. But I wanted to be here for the podcast. I've been up for like nearly 24 hours now. But so if anything I said was unclear, because it probably was, because I feel like I've been rambling, and I Remember, English is my like second or third language. You know, whatever you want to start counting.
Second
So
or
when I
third.
get tired,
Oh, it's like such a gloaty thing to say if you're American. It's like my second or third. I'm not sure. I lost count. I know so many languages. Dude.
That sounded way less pretentious in my head. But the point
No,
is,
I mean, it's more normal in Europe to have a second or third language.
Yeah, compared to
point
the... Go ahead.
Yeah, like my point is that when I get tired, the English side of my brain kind of shuts down, so I have to always like I stumble on my words. But basically, what I'm getting at is if anything was unclear. I'm a bit grumpy today, so I might have said some things that are dumb. But if there's anything you wanna, want me to explain better, I guess. I can't think of any better fancy words right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just DM me, and I will have a chat. I'll always respond to any inquiries about anything.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else I need to say. I will say though that I will probably make a video of my own personal opinions in more detail, because this was kind of just us four giving our general opinions on this entire situation and the state of the community in general. And I hope it cleared up a lot of things for you guys, and I hope everyone here kind of got to speak their mind. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
measure in the future, if you have any major grievances about the server or just in general how things are, please first air it in the general talk and tag a mod, and then we can decide whether to make that a public thing or put it to the side.
Right.
I guess a good I guess words of encouragement to end up the series a bit at least that I can give is that if you guys ever think it's awkward on the Discord or you're feeling unfairly treated or it's sad, remember that at least you're not sitting at a conference where you're the only person below 50 years old, and you're talking about really complicated teleology on runestones, and you raise the hand and the entire freaking mess hall turn around and give you the death stare. Because that was me today.
Bringing up some stuff in your life, huh?
Yeah, no, that was actually